The main use cases there for the SMB marketer is, your storytelling videos, creating a YouTube channel, because YouTube is the second biggest search engine. People are trying to get found, and so that's one SEO, videos as an important component of search engine optimization. So what we encourage and what we see a lot of our users doing is, every blog page includes a video, and that's video is generated. So the retention, the time spent on the blog page, the bounce rate, all of those metrics improve by putting videos in there.
Hi, I'm Greg Stewart, CEO of MMA Global, the international nonprofit trade association for CMOs who are focused on architecting a new future of marketing.
I'm Rex Briggs, an author, market researcher, measurement inventor, and entrepreneur.
I'm Greg Stewart, CEO of MMA Global.
And I'm Rex Briggs, an author, marketing researcher, and entrepreneur, and chief AI officer at Claritas. And this is Decoding AI for Marketing. So the ecosystem for marketing and AI is so interesting to me because it's truly changing and growing and morphing every day. There are these big, large language models who maybe got most of the coverage. And there are these big companies that have a huge impact on the marketing space who are both building their own AI and integrating technology from partners. And then there are those partners, really interesting startups and smaller companies that are really filling gaps, strengthening the web of just how much AI can and can't do. And we are here today to talk to one of them.
Yeah, listen, I think we've heard kind of from a few startup CEOs already here on the show, right, Rex? But I mean, I'm kind of obsessed with the question as to like, where is the killer app around some of this? That where is the practicality that really makes this sort of AI space come alive for everybody? And I think it's just super valuable for us to constantly understand like what's going on and what's doing what and what kind of makes sense, I think, is the way I'd put this company. So I don't know. You want to make the introduction?
Sure. Well, this is a company that I've actually used before. We've incorporated in some of our AI training, especially when we have longer time for people to get more hands-on. And it's a company called Pictory. I think of them more as an AI workflow company. They've really understood the user experience of what does it take to take content, convert it into videos or reels. If you have longer form information, to condense it down, they've got a really cool algorithm that does it. They don't build the large language models. They tap into to some of the others, and they make it really easy for you to get the benefit of it. So we have the CEO of Pictory here, Vikram Chalana. And thank you so much for joining us. And first of all, did I pronounce your name right? Did I butcher it? I know Vikram, but
You got it right. You got it. Yeah, you got it right. It's Chalana, but hey, it's a pleasure to be here, Rex and Greg, both of you.
Great, Victor. I appreciate you doing this. So listen, just let's kind of be clear that everybody sort of understands what the company's doing. I think that'd be kind of helpful. So it's basically focused on sort of repurposing content in some regards into either variety forms or shorter forms. I don't know. Why don't you kind of, you probably can say it better than we could. So why don't you tell us?
Yeah, exactly that. Actually, when we started this, one of my own frustration was videos were hard to make. Videos were just like the workflow of creating and editing videos. This is very hard. And I always thought, the next generation is going to be all about video. So I thought, hey, it should be part of an office productivity suite. Like, you have Word and Excel and PowerPoint, there should be a video maker right next to it. And that's kind of the vision we started out with, is like something as easy as PowerPoint. So it doesn't take any business user a big, long learning curve to start making videos. And the other thing we saw was that, people are sitting on tons of different forms of content, whether it's like written blogs or recorded webinars or podcasts, as we're doing. And how do we take that and create short videos from that? So that was our vision, is about like repurposing content into short, engaging videos that you can post on a variety of channels, external or internal.
And you've done a brilliant job with it. I had used it to take a blog and break it down into a nice video that had some, it was very interesting to see how appropriate the animations that it picked and brought in to go along with the blog and the way that it brought that to life. I'd love to hear you talk about some of your customers. I imagine they oftentimes are SMBs, but here I am, a person in a larger corporation, and I just want to be able to do it myself. And I also turn to your tools. Tell me a little bit about how your customers and what you're experiencing, how they're using it.
Yeah, so we have two groups of people who really dig our product. There's marketers who are making videos telling the story about their company, their product, their service. And then we have educators as a second group who are either creating educational material from it using Pictory, because education has also evolved a lot towards video, right? So, or they're making marketing material related to their education. So people might be selling courses on, say, Kajabi or Thinkific or platforms like that, and they use Pictory to make little snippets of it, trailers of it, or marketing promos of their courses. So marketers and educators, marketers making educational videos and educators making marketing videos, both.
And listen, I know it's not you're not doing like a SOAR kind of thing, but yet I mean we've talked about that sort of expensive and kind of crazy and sort of I don't know, a whole different kind of thing. But what is some of the AI? Talk a little bit about the AI that's behind this, and what have you built into this, and what was the kind of I always like to kind of hear kind of the founder story too. So I got the business need, but when did you match up the technology to say, hey, this is what I want to do, or this is what I think we can do to really make this work? I'd like to hear some of that.
Yeah, so we started this before all this LLM mad rush. We started the company in 2019, about 4.5 years ago, and we wanted to understand text, natural language processing, and that's kind of my background personally is I've done a lot of machine learning and pattern recognition stuff in different domains, and I was trying to see, okay, can we learn some of that stuff from my past experience and bring it into the video domain, and so the core tech, one piece of the core tech is this search and matching algorithm. So we understand your script or your blog, and if you will, and then the story that you have in the script, we're able to match it perfectly to either stock visuals or visuals that are in your blog, or in a library that you have. You might have an asset management library. So we're able to match all those together in a very nice way and stitch it together to tell the story, right? So that's one of our core thing is being able to search through a variety of visual content. It could be videos, it could be images, it could be a bunch of clips. And the second thing, then we add workflow about finding a right piece of music that attaches it to the story, finding a narrative that goes with it. So we have text to speech in there, really lifelike text to speech in there. So that would narrate the story together. So that's one core piece of tech, is that search AI, and the second piece of AI is about summarization. So taking a long form video like a webinar or this podcast, we convert it to a transcript, and then it becomes a text problem back again. But the transcript summarization, like you can give the transcript into ChatGPT, it'll give you a really nice summary, but it rewords it. So you can't really then go and create a highlight reel from that. So we had to kind of stitch it together in a way that we can still get a nice summary, but actually the summary is a series of extracts or clips from your original podcast that you did. So it can serve two purposes. You can either get a summary, like a 5-minute sizzle reel, or you can get 10 30-second or 10 1-minute segments that you can post on platforms like TikTok and Instagram and stuff. So that's
Greg,
the other
I almost
piece
think
of
of it a
technology.
little bit like the Gen AI in the image area, where it does automatic resizing. This takes you some content and lets you have lots of different versions very easily, and it's been a big help. I think one of the questions that people have, though, is as more and more content becomes AI generated, how does that change the overall ecosystem of media? And I don't know if you guys have watched the series on Netflix called The Circle or Circle. But this season they have an AI basically catfishing other people, and no one can tell which one's the AI, but they all think that a human being's the AI. So I see the same thing on the internet where people think, oh, all this content's AI generated. And it's like, well, maybe it is, or maybe it's just humans not writing as effectively as you think it is. I'm just curious on your whole perspective on where the media system goes as we have more AI assisted content like yours.
Yeah, I mean this is an existential question for content creators to some degree. Like, okay, do we need humans in the loop, and how much better can it get that, and eventually the LLMs are going to be trained on this on a lot of AI generated content on the internet too. So I think just the bar for quality of the content will continue to rise, because people will recognize, hey, that just like, I mean, Turing test is making things indistinguishable, but I think as humans we'll be able to recognize when it's really crafted by humans versus completely done by AI and machine learning. Even in our software, we see users spend a bunch of time selecting just the right visuals because the AI picked visuals didn't convey exactly what they were trying to tell, and they'll many times ignore the machine narration because they want to use their own voice and record their voice in there. So I think, yeah, that bar is gonna rise, and the tech is gonna get better too. So I think there's that race that will continue to happen. But like my utopian scenario here is non-designers, non-videographers being able to create videos easily, without having to rely on, with the designer crowd, and that's just like democratizing a lot of design elements, and that's kind of the utopia here. Is like a lot of people will be able to create content, and
Well, that was kind of the whole Canva thesis, wasn't it? That they, who's a big member of the MMA here and involved even at the board level, but they basically figured out like, wow, everybody might like a design, they just can't do it. So let's make it easy.
and
Is that analogous to what you're doing?
they were a huge inspiration for us as we were starting Pictory. Is like Canva for video. I used to almost call it that. Like that's what we want to build, and that inspired a lot of our team members to join and stuff. Although they've added video capabilities, but I think we're trying to kind of take a slightly different approach with content repurposing as opposed to starting from templates, because Canva, everything is about templates, starting from templates. We're about starting from an existing piece of content, but yeah, they're huge influence for me in the community.
Back to your question, though, back to the point that you're raising there. So listen, I don't know. You're right. AI is, I don't know, it's 35% off of good, right? I mean, every time I look at something, like Rex had asked me to write the forward for his book. So I threw it in the chat GPT. I said, assume I'm a marketing expert and I'm writing a forward for a book on the AI, whatever. What do I put in the thing? And I sent it to him, and he wrote back to me, and he kind of was like, he wanted to be polite, I think. He was like, well, I guess it doesn't really feel like you read my book. But it was just, it missed kind of the nuance. It was like, 35% off of good. So what, you think there's a time where it does really just, I mean, it's moving so fast now. Is it another year, 5 years, 10 years? I mean, that really the video I get out of there is going to be absolutely perfect. It's exactly what I would have wanted. I don't know.
I don't know if I had a crystal ball. Things are moving pretty fast.
I'm asking for a trend line, Yeah.
I know things are moving pretty fast, and at the same time, I think our needs are also moving pretty quickly. So we will expect AI to produce better than what it is today. So I think, yeah, I mean, yes, in a couple of years, you'll have really good, accessible video makers that would produce something that you exactly want, almost like that, the ChatGPT. But then we'll all be trying to put nuances in there and trying to make it better. And yeah.
Well, and I think to build on that idea, there's Clay Christensen's work with the innovator's dilemma was that basically it's not the better solution that disrupts the market. It's a solution that is just as Greg described. It's maybe 80% as good as the best in class, but half the cost. That differential disrupts it, and you're far more than less than half the cost. I mean, you truly have democratized the technology, and I think what you've also done is quite brilliant. Is you've included in the workflow the ability to easily edit what the AI has done, so that you have control. And so I'd love to hear you talk a little bit more about. I imagine SMBs have been a big adopter of what you're doing because you have democratized the capability and given them, again, a great starting place really quickly. And if you want to tweak it, you want to fine tune it, you want to add that human touch to it, you can. How are SMBs using it? I mean, what are some of the biggest things that you're seeing change for SMBs? How is it helping them do something that they couldn't have done without you?
Yeah, so we ended up in the SMB market. I mean, we were initially trying to target enterprises, and one of the things we saw there was, and going back to this quality requirement, the quality requirement for an enterprise video is much higher than it is for an SMB. So SMB can tolerate a little bit lower quality videos because the value that they're getting from it by not spending a ton of money with an agency is very high, and that's kind of how why SMBs are a good market for us. It's like, my only option are either I learn this Adobe Premiere and spend months of my life, or give it out to an agency and spend thousands of dollars. And so we kind of give them a really good option to start doing it themselves, and the marketing leaders. And the main use cases there for the SMB marketer is, your storytelling videos, creating a YouTube channel, because YouTube is the second biggest search engine. People are trying to get found, and so that's one. SEO, videos as an important component of search engine optimization. So what we encourage and what we see a lot of our users doing is, every blog page includes a video, and that's video is generated. So the retention, the time spent on the blog page, the bounce rate, all of those metrics improve by putting videos in there. And then videos are indexed separately by YouTube, so that you get that second advantage too. So those are like some of the marketing benefits we see from our SMB customers.
Hey, Vikram, I'm kind of curious, what was the hardest problem you felt like you had to solve in doing this? I mean, you've been at it 5 years now, right? About 5 years?
Yep.
And I assume the idea started before that. People usually think of their ideas and they get going. But what was the most difficult challenge you had to solve? And what's going to be the hard one going forward?
There's constantly challenges. So I think the hardest thing that we had to solve was how to get videos to generate fast enough on the cloud. And because, like, if you think about the incumbent solutions, Adobe and Final Cut Pro, that sits on your desktop. People are used to buying like heavy duty desktops to render videos and the like. And rendering video on the cloud is it's an expensive proposition. So still being able to offer at a reasonable price to the customer. And so that required a lot of engineering to allow us to figure that out. The AI stuff, we've been using, again, as you mentioned, like it's been workflow. So that's been not as hard. But then over time, like over the last like 18 months or so, we've started using LLMs in there. And there the challenge now becomes, how do we keep it fine-tuned to our data, our customer data? And there's been some really interesting engineering challenges there in fine-tuning that and coming up with the right models.
What does that mean, fine-tuning? What do you mean? Like, making it in their brand tone? Is that what you mean by that?
Well, so fine-tuning, yeah, it's more like training it on your data. So yeah. So that's kind of the whole thing. So, but for us, it's not about like individual customer. It's like taking all the customers' data and saying, okay, here's how people are searching. Can you fine-tune a search to find imagery? That's like our key problem is finding video clips and imagery. So ChatGPT wasn't intended for that problem, but we have been able to fine tune it for that problem. ChatGPT wasn't intended for video summarization, but we were able to fine tune it for that. So we're now using LLMs, fine tuned LLMs for almost all our AI work now.
Yeah, but then they change something in their stack, and then all of a sudden, what used to work, like we had that same problem at
Stops
Claritas.
working,
We were building personas, and then all of a sudden, someday it says, "I can't represent real people." Like, we're not asking you to represent real people. You were just doing this yesterday. Do it.
I know.
You can-
Yeah.
Have you? So it sounds like you've run the same issues. Yeah, talk more about that. 'Cause I
Multiple
think it's
times.
important for listeners to understand that.
Wait, so what's going on there? What's how? I'm not that
You
deep
get the
into.
carpet
So what's
pulled out from under you because somebody
because
over at
OpenAI made some
it
change?
improvement. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and what
Vikram,
would be
take
the
it
kind
away.
of change? What are the kind of change that they would have made then that affected what you said there, Rex or Vikram?
So the kinds of experience that we've had is certain models that we've created, the fine-tuned models. They said, okay, we don't support these versions anymore. So there's one type of problems. Then other things could be, like, okay, we're not supporting 3.5 anymore. Everything has to be moved to 4.0. So now you have to retrain everything on 4.0, and they're giving us a deadline, but it's just constantly running again. So yeah, and I've seen some companies benefit from using open source LLMs with a lot more control, but and some of them are getting really good and comparable to GPT-4. So that's kind of how they're constantly like you have to run.
Hey, Vikram, I might get this kind of a little bit wrong, so feel free to correct me. But listen, we've got a couple of things going on out there. I mean, was it Shutterstock? No, it wasn't Shutterstock. It was one of the
Getty?
photo stores just sold their entire photo library for $200 million, right? Somebody just did that. I think a couple weeks ago. And then you've got this issue. So that's obviously somebody acquiring data for, the sort of training. Okay. So I don't know who did that. I don't remember the deal. So if anybody remembers, go ahead and tell me. And then you've also got this issue of New York Times coming out and filing a lawsuit against OpenAI, so you can't be used. So talk a little bit about that intersection. I bet you a big, MMA tends to represent big enterprise marketers. I bet you there's some anxiety and this uncertainty around sort of where those roads cross. Can you talk a little about that?
Yeah, so we look at this indemnification problem. People do, some of the larger customers that we have do ask about that. And that's one advantage of some of this using OpenAI and Microsoft. They indemnify you against those kind of lawsuits.
Do they? Okay.
So they're
good.
taking that on. But you may not. Yeah, exactly. There's some protection.
Yeah, and same with like
more-
11 Labs with the voices, right? I mean, if you're using a synthetic voice, are you using a third party for your synthetic voices or
Yes, we're using 11 Labs. Yeah, 11
which
Labs
also has
as well as Google
indemnification
Voices.
stuff, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but still talk more about how you sort of think about the risk in the generative space and how you help marketers. I mean, again, SMBs are probably less affected by that risk, but I think Greg asked a really good question. If you wouldn't mind expanding on it.
Yeah, I think so. It's something we're still grappling with, and the image domain where people are training from images or videos and coming up with that's the right approach to doing that. And so I think we just have to align with passing that indemnity on to our customers so they can continue to use it. The other concern the enterprises will have in this is sharing their data. So you want to make sure that you're sitting in isolated instances that their data doesn't go back into the OpenAI's training corpus, if you will. And so that's the other thing that people are concerned about. So that's another engineering problem that we're continuing to trying to solve is isolating instances for customers.
What do you see as the biggest opportunities when you think about marketing in the next 18 months? What do you think is going to change, either with your specific area or more broadly, that will make marketers need to adopt this more quickly?
I think we're going to start seeing, and we probably already see a lot of personalization, personalized videos, personalized landing pages, personalized everything. And it's kind of the whole trend of account-based marketing kind of moving in that direction. So that's one. But then that's account-based marketing. But we're getting asked from B2C large companies in B2C space for personalized videos in the consumer space. So for each individual user that they serve, sending videos about, hey, here's, so example, like a game company might want to send usage stats to each of their gamers in the form of a video. And that's one problem that we've been asked to look at. And there's, but so I think that whole concept of personalization.
Do you have the work? That's really exciting. Do you have the workflow for that now, to where if I gave you like a mail merge of these different names? I mean, Coca-Cola did this with different cans of Coke where you could have your friend's name on it, but they just picked the top 200 names. But in your case, I mean, you with your cloud compute and what you're doing, you probably couldn't do this in the milliseconds to deliver an ad, but certainly if you knew that you were advertising and getting engagement signal as people landed on the page, I could see that working. How close are you to that being production?
I like, we have all the APIs ready, but it's, the workflow is all dependent on the customer's workflow. So we're still learning about a little bit of that. So that's still, I would say, 50-60% of the way there, because the APIs are ready to go.
That's
but
so exciting.
the other
So just to make sure I understand this, because I get geeky about this stuff. So
absolutely.
the name is easy. I mean, that's sort of like, insert the synthetic voice, speech to text, to reading the name, and boom, it's there.
Yep.
But the actual, it seems like with your power of your tool, you could actually create different imagery that if I had a set of features and a set of, maybe a corpus of a little bit of data on this person, I could be selecting the images. Like right now I'm in Denver, so maybe, because of that, you pick up and do a snow-capped mountain because I like skiing, and you're seeing these different bits and pieces that are coming into it. Is that what you're describing coming soon?
That is already done. Like, that's easy to do because you just change the script a little bit, and it automatically will search Denver or Seattle or whatever. But the other part also is like, and the speech is also there, and then the text that gets displayed on the scene is also modifiable. So you're in Denver and you've used the ski resort, 50 times this year, so it'll show up that congratulations 50. So that kind of stuff can also happen, is what shows up on the overlaid on the video. So yeah, those, so the components are all there.
Yeah. So what's the next step to take it? Is it just the cloud compute and the business model to make it work, or is it something else?
Yeah, no, it's actually more, there will be a lot of integration points. Like, where does the data come from? Where do the videos finally go? And that's the bit that we're still kind of working on. So putting the entire workflow together. So the base is there, but the workflow is still, and it'll be dependent on the customer use case too.
Have you seen, given it's not been a long time yet in to have a product out there, I suspect, Vikram, so but I want, my question is, have you seen like the needs, how have you seen the needs of the customers? Like if you look at your SMBs, how have their needs changed over the last couple of years versus, what were you doing 3 years ago? What do you like, what's required today? Or what are they asking for tomorrow, even if you want to go after that?
For now, what we are seeing is like the quality ask has just increased. Yeah, okay. So as we mentioned before,
it's back to my, it used to be okay to be 35% off grade. It's now 25% off a grade is okay.
Right,
or
exactly.
It is, right?
Yeah, and I think like next year it'll be like, it better be 10% or what I asked for.
That's right.
But then
that's right, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, because I don't go in and use, I will say as a user sometimes it gets a little frustrating. You go and use some AI tool and I go, wow, I've just spent more time trying to manage the tool and the machine rather than just get my damn answer, which is what I came here for. Kind of misses the point.
Well, what's really interesting is also, I think there's, at this point, there's still some human allergic response to this idea of AI generated content. I was watching a discussion on Reddit in one of the forums about AI in customer service and support. And somebody was saying, "Oh, I'm so sick of talking to these these AI bots that they sound so human, but they're not solving my problem. They're going round and around." And a bunch of support agents jumped on the thread and said, "Actually, that's probably a human." The AI is better than
I
that.
love it. I love it. Yeah, I wouldn't make that kind of mistake.
Exactly. It's like they used to, but that's not where we're at. And I've sat
Yeah.
and they're describing sitting in their cubicle, hearing one of their colleagues just completely screwing things up and not getting the information and the facts right. And they're like, actually, I think AI is probably
Hey,
not
Rex,
the one
that's
that you're
kind of,
talking to.
that's kind of interesting because, listen, we just had the Possible, we had MMA's Possible event last week in Miami, and, a lot of those videos and visual imageries across the screens had a very AI look to them. I mean, I think that we know what that is. And in fact, I closed my presentation with a video that I had taken a song and manipulated it based on, I think we took the original video and converted it in some regards with some real, and it had a real AI look, but I wonder if that becomes like the normal look for today, right? Consumers adjust to that rather than start to ask it to be more like what they were used to in the past, is what I think you just said.
Well,
It's
what do
kind
you
of
think,
funny.
Vikram? What do you think? Is there going to be an AI aesthetic, and do you think people will gravitate towards that? And how are you giving people control over what the aesthetic is like? I
Is it going to
mean,
be
I don't
featured
know.
in MoMA and the Metropolitan Museum of Art and the Seattle Art Museum? That will be what we'll be buying. Sotheby's will be selling a sort of AI
AI
tone.
generated art.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I like think about this. I was reading an article the other day about the AI generated music, right? Since you just talked about a song that you generated, and how many artists are already on Spotify, and how many can there be with AI, and the the long tail is already so tiny. There's so few listens to articles to singers who are in the long tail. Now you imagine all the AI generated songs, and it's just gonna nobody's gonna listen to it. But there will be some. I like this idea of like this AI aesthetic, and there will be some demand for that too, especially if we're talking about things like that, like robotic cars of the future. It'd be nice to see that aesthetic show up in the video.
Interesting.
I think it's the on-demand nature of what you're doing that I find interesting. There is a human artist who has created over 30,000 songs on Spotify, and he's done it to exploit search engine optimization because he knows that if he sings different birthday kind of songs with different people's names, somebody will want to listen to it. If he sings songs about teenage, farting or whatever, I think that's how he has a whole catalog of just that people will listen to it, he'll share it, it becomes popular, and he's made actually a living off of it. So you can
Nice.
imagine that we get to this world where there's just more and more fragmentation because AI makes it easier. So it's just not one human artist doing it, it's lots of people who have the idea that you've now democratized.
Yeah.
So I guess I wonder, as you look at the bridge between where we're at now and where we get to this place of as you described, with personalization and lots of content matching what people need at the moment and at that time, what are the top 2 or 3 things that you think marketers should be doing tomorrow, next week, next month to begin to move towards that place of personalization and mastering these tools and getting more comfortable with the ability to work together with your kinds of technologies?
Yeah, I think like the text part is the easy starting point if you're not already doing the AI generated text and the blogs and all that stuff. That's the easy place to start. Images and video are close behind after that, and applying personalization in the form of how you outreach to customers, how you serve up ads. That there's some interesting technologies, including ours, that are available for you to experiment with already, and put that in your marketing plans for later this year and next year. It's coming. I mean, this is all here. There's a bunch of stuff already here.
Hey, Vikram, I had a note here about you. I'm not sure I'm tracking the point. It says something. I'm not sure if I know what was written down here. It says explains the case of learning failure. You put a lot of energy into this. Does that resonate with you? That point?
It was also in the context, like, that doesn't resonate, but I think, like, is we
It's just I I wonder if this wasn't back to the ChatGPT issue, changing the rules, but yeah.
That was definitely one. And then of course, like I think in general as an entrepreneur, you learn a lot of lessons and fail a lot of times along the way. And I think I was thinking about that specifically.
Yeah, I've got if you're looking for like things you've gotten wrong in your business, I've been here long enough to have a very, very long list.
Yes.
And I'd be happy to share it down. It'd just take me forever to write it all out, I think. It's some all the things I got wrong in my business. It's hard to do a new. Is this the first startup you've done, Vikram, by the way?
No, this is my number 3. And so, but I don't know, like if you're a serial entrepreneur, there are benefits, but at the same time, every market is different. Every product is different. The technology environment, everything changes. So it doesn't matter that you've done it before. It feels new every time.
Oh, I don't know. Really, you don't think there's like pattern recognition to having done this before? I mean, I don't know. Listen, MMA's alive today only because I've done it before. Because I turned around another trade association. I had that experience about 20 some odd years ago, and I learned a lot of lessons from that. I had a lot of good support, but this one was really tricky to do, I think, and it's only because I knew what I was doing, I think. I don't know.
Yeah. No, but it was tricky, right? Still, because it's a completely different org and a different type of market. Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
I do wonder, though. I mean, I certainly look back at the early days of the internet and ask, what did we get wrong, and how can we do better this time with AI? I've been thinking about, bias and privacy and who controls the data and things like that. Are there things that that you've observed and are thinking about in terms of AI, using AI responsibly, especially when you think about the fact that you are democratizing this technology? It means that there can be a flood of a lot more content, maybe even misinformation. How do you think about that, and how do you help navigate what your system can and can't do? How do you weigh what your responsibility is in that ecosystem?
Yeah, no, misinformation is the one that worries me the most, especially with the election year and everything given it. And it's really easy to spit out these videos, and we haven't built any of the cloning technology or the face swap technology or anything into our stuff. So at least, I would take that responsibility seriously when we add that, to kind of make sure you can't just clone anyone's voice and put it in the video, and clone anyone's face and put it in the video. The thing that still worries me is people can convert any text to a video. So what is the accuracy of the text? Is it harmful content? Is it misinformation? Some of that is easy to detect, and we use some services to detect harmful content. But misinformation is really hard to detect, right? And that's kind of that's the one I really worry about, and I think. But I'm hopeful that I know there are people working on better, validation from multiple sources, so you can check for misinformation, and I'm hoping somebody will come up with an API that we can just plug into our thing, saying, okay, this information is likely, and we'd warn that in the video, or not let them generate it or something.
Hey, Vikram, I did hear a funny thing to Rex's question there about what happened before. Vex, by the way, I would have done a lot more investing if I'd realized what the hell was going on into internet. That was my big takeaway. Well, wealth maximization, I think, was the issue that I missed there. So try to do some here. Hey, Vikram, what as you kind of I did have somebody from one of the big platforms. I won't name companies. One of the big platforms says, yeah, the funny thing about AI, they go, it's really going to be owned by the big companies, by the big enterprise, by the platforms. You kind of guess that, they're all people down the street there in San Francisco, Do you think that's really true, or do you think there's really just as much opportunity for an entrepreneur like yourself to build something as there ever was, or do you think the market has changed in some regards? It's a funny question, isn't it?
No, it's not actually. It's a very valid question, and I think about it because the foundational models are so expensive to train and build and run. That stuff, like Anthropic had to raise a huge amount of money, and Mistral has to raise a huge amount of money to run their models, to train their models. GPT 5, they're saying it's going to cost like $500 million to train or something. It's so there is, you certainly start like foundational model business, you're going to be in an elite club where either you're a large company or you've raised a ton of money. But the interesting thing is, like companies like ours, where we're not running a foundational model, we can run everything pretty cost effectively by leveraging existing foundational models. So there'll be a lot of like application companies like ours that, I mean, we're already seeing that in the startup space. There's like, we already see a lot of competition in the last year or so. And we'll continue to see that. So there, I think there'll be a split that we'll see.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah. But there's this underlying cost dynamic that we didn't really have back, with the internet in the same sort of way.
Yeah. And I think the cost of, like, we talked about Sora, right? I mean, I don't know how much it's going to cost, but if I just extrapolate from the cost of a DALL-E generated image to a video of the same quality, a 10-second video on Sora might cost, and again, that's not what they might charge, but it might cost like $60 to generate. And then that is still probably subsidized by their investors and all that stuff. So eventually the cost of all that stuff is going to have to show up somewhere.
Right. I always like to kind of ask this question too, and maybe it's kind of a good question to sort of wrap things up in some regards. So you're an outsider to marketing, right? You've not built a previous business. What do you think marketing doesn't get that you wish they did? Like, what do you think as you look out as working with those who are doing marketing, you go, wow, this is a funny business. These people do things different, I mean, you have a PhD in engineering, so let's assume you've worked with sort of the best in a sciences business like engineering.
It's a great concluding question, and you don't have to be polite.
Lives at risk. None of that exists in marketing. Nobody's dying in marketing typically.
But I think like what is, and I'm going to flip it around a little bit, because I feel like marketing is at the cutting edge of technology to some degree. Every time I've been through, like even in my previous company, like things that I did not realize that marketers were using, they are using. Like the latest and the best of the technologies, I would say Gen AI, like marketing is the front of that, is at the forefront of that. And so I think like, marketers are living at the bleeding edge already. and I think that this personalization stuff is already like bleeding edge, and it's gonna be even more so. So I don't have any advice for that, really.
It can be a very innovative group, which is the part that I certainly love. Not always as systems oriented in their thinking in terms of
kind of making stuff up a lot sometimes because it sounds good. Yeah, don't confuse intelligence
like an AI,
and good storytelling. A little bit. I was just trying to think about that. It's like, yeah, well, listen, if I don't know the answer, I'll just hallucinate and fill in the gap because I'm very gifted verbally to do that. That would be marketing as far as I'm concerned.
And
so
that's
already
amazing.
The coming.
We're already artificially intelligent. That I don't know.
And on that note, that's it for this episode of Decoding AI for Marketing. I'm Rex Briggs.
And I'm Greg Stewart.
Be sure to catch all our episodes, plus subscribe, follow, and review in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast apps. You can get transcripts and more information on our website, decodingaiformarketing.com, and learn more about the MMA and membership options. Go to MMAglobal.com. Thanks for listening.